All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking real music in real time for real people just like you right there and just like me right here. So, I'm feeling really melancholy today, and I try to do upbeat videos, and I try to be witty and funny and all those things that I'm actually not. My kids think I'm funny. So that's all that counts, I guess, right? With all the stuff going on in the world right now, I took a brief look at an article that was talking about Phil Collins and his song One More Night. 35 years ago today, hit number one. 35. First of all, that's a stupid number. 35 is a stupid number. I always say that. I get a year older and I go, that's a stupid number. I don't understand that number. Please help me. I don't feel this way, but that's the number they're giving me. So Phil Collins in 1985 was a megastar. He was on top of the world. His latest album called No Jacket Required had come out, and One More Night was released and just skyrocketed to number one. It used this 808 drum machine, which you can hear throughout the song. And, there are people out there that are just going to say, well, it was one of the cheesiest songs in the history of music. Epic saxophone solo in it. Phil just banging out some keyboard progressions, and he's got some great, great romantic lyrics. And if you're a couple my age and you can get the kids, to leave you alone for a while, or if you got kids who've already left the nest, you can just, listen to this and go right back to 1985. Phil Collins started the decade off with Genesis as a band that was progressing away from the sound they had during the 1970s. They made a conscious effort, especially on the Duke album, but even before that and then there were three, where you had their first kind of crossover or breakout song, Follow You, Follow Me, which did really well, especially on adult contemporary radio, and opened them to a new audience. By the time Collins had released his first solo album, both Genesis and Phil as a solo act were just storming the gates. They were, if you want to make a case for overexposure, Phil Collins in the 1980s, he was one of those guys. I mean, people talk about Madonna or Michael Jackson or Prince. Phil is right up in there with those people. In fact, I would say Phil was more consistent as an artist than any of those people, even Michael Jackson. I know that's a crazy statement, but Michael Jackson was never going to top Thriller. I mean, the stuff he came out with was still really, really amazing. But Phil Collins, every single release was like, okay, there's 2 great songs, 4 great songs. It just kept progressing. And what's ironic is that Phil Collins ended the decade. He literally ended the decade on the top of the charts with a tune called Another Day in Paradise. Even brought David Crosby along for the ride there at the end. Getting a little more socially conscious as he was describing a situation that quite honestly still exists today. And with the stuff that's going on now, you got to shake your head that we haven't even addressed the problem in 30-something years. So when I listen to this song, I get really sentimental, especially with what's happening in the world today. I mean, yeah, do I like to rock? Duh. I would rather put on something upbeat with lots of guitars and guitar solos and just, stellar performances and so forth. But then you got Phil Collins at the keyboard, playing songs, the drummer playing the keyboards. I always marveled at a guy who could be so versatile, who said, you know what, I'm just going to let the 808 drum machine do this, and I'm going to I'm going to play keyboards, and just a great melody. And the other thing about Phil in 1985 was that here's a guy who played the greatest benefit concert in my lifetime, which of course is Live Aid. He's in Philadelphia. He plays a terrific set in Philadelphia. Then as a kind of a weird stunt, he gets on a plane and he flies to England to perform in England later in the day. On a Concorde, I believe. It was a really fast plane that took him from Philadelphia to Great Britain. And he played later that day or evening in Great Britain. And he was just amazing both times. If you ask me today, hey, would you go back to 1985 and do it all over again? Kind of like an Eddie Money song. Yeah, I think I would. I'd like to take my family. I'd like to take all the good things that I have now with me. Maybe I could, do that Groundhog Day thing where I plan it just the right way and meet the right people and so forth. But yeah, especially in the midst of what's going on in the world right now, I could do without Facebook and Twitter and even YouTube, even though this channel has been really good to me. I could do without it. I really could. I could go back and appreciate, it's like everything would be more robust. Like I would hear this song on the radio and I'd look over at somebody and I'd try to be coy and go, you know what? This song's going to number 1. This is like the best Phil Collins track ever. And it may not just be this song, but today, with all the stuff going on in the world, it just makes me feel really good to hear Phil Collins and to know that 35 years ago, he was kind of the king. He was the top. And people complain, oh, he was so overexposed. He was everywhere. Yeah, he sure was. And one of the great artists of all time, really. And I know his band is back on the road, I believe, later this year, maybe, for a few shows over in England. But I'm sure those will be great if they go off as planned. But nothing tops this moment here for me. 1985, March 30th, 1985, Phil Collins hits number 1 with One More Night, a drummer using a drum track, the 808, and sounding exquisite, and hasn't been focus tested out. Still around, deservedly so, and maybe go give it a listen to right now. It might make you feel a little bit better about what's happening in the world. And of course, do it with somebody who you really care about. Because there are a lot of weird things happening right now, and it's kind of hard to grasp. All right, I'm done. I'm not usually this sentimental or drippy, but a lot of stuff's going on with my life too. In the moving stages here, going from one location to another, and I haven't done that, and I didn't think I was going to do that again, but here we go again. So yeah, and just take care of yourself out there. Take care of yourself. Stay indoors as much as you can and take it seriously. All right. See you soon.